And we are live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, parents, kids, and physicians to the March 2021 Walk with a Doc Kids Time from the Nevada chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. My name is Leanne McAllister. I am the executive director of the Nevada chapter of the AAP, and I welcome you all here today. For nearly 5 years, the Nevada AAP has met the second Sunday of every month in Las Vegas to talk about a wide range of pediatric health topics and then go for a walk together. Most of the year we meet at Springs Preserve near downtown Las Vegas, but when it gets too hot down here in the valley, we head up to Mount Charleston. And a couple of years ago, we also added walks at the Sparks Marina in Reno. So because of the pandemic, we've been virtual now for almost a year, but we're looking forward to, as the vaccine rate goes up and the virus infection rate goes down, we will have more in-person walks so we can all get out and get our steps together. So today we have actually our Walk with the Doc coordinator for the chapter, Dr. Lily Hadaji, and she is a pediatrician at Oasis Pediatrics here in Las Vegas. And Dr. Hadaji is going to talk to us today about growing up digital and the effects that it has on kids. While she's speaking, please put your questions in the chat. It'll be my job to try to keep track of those and make sure that we get those answered before the end of the talk today. And later today or tomorrow, the recording of this presentation will be on our website, nevadaaap.org. Dr. Hadaji, I'm ready when you are.
Thank you so much, Leanne. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to all our families and kids for tuning in this morning for our talk. So today's topic is going to be growing up digital and how that is affecting our kids. I'll be talking about the effects of screen time in children, especially during this pandemic and the changes we've experienced with virtual schooling, having to stay home more often, and social distancing. I'll also discuss alternative healthy activities that can make a positive impact in children and their behavior and development. So what is considered a screen time device? Now, this is any device with a screen that requires us to fixate our eyes, such as a television, tablets, phones, computers, video games on the TV, handheld video games. So basically any electronic screen whether it's large or handheld. Now, I'll refer to passive screen time during our talk, which describes a child engaging in screen time alone without interaction with the parent or caregiver. So let's talk about some important facts on screen time. Now, interestingly, infants as early as 6 months can focus on parents' digital media. A very common question I get in my office from parents during visits is whether it is appropriate to have background TV on while the infant or child is playing in the room. Now, background TV can interfere with face-to-face communication and bonding, distracting parents from meaningful interactions with children, and we want to avoid exposing younger infants to screens early on. So this would be a practice I usually discourage. So what about older children? Now, in fact, teens are approximately exposed to 7 hours or more of screen time daily, not including use for school. So if you account for the 4 to 6 hours that they may be participating in virtual school, and then you add on several more hours of passive screen time, that's a lot of screen time. Teenagers who watch 5 hours or more of screen time are actually 5 times more likely to be overweight. So the reason for that is we tend to eat more when we're watching TV or looking at different screens. Children are influenced by commercials for high calorie foods, and they're engaging in less physical activities that are healthier for them. So how does all this exposure to screen time affect our kids? So let's talk about what symptoms this can cause in the short term, meaning right away. So excess screen time can affect your vision and eye muscles, making children's eyes fatigued or tired. They develop dry eyes due to reduced blinking. So kids, we blink in order to moisturize our eyes. So the less we blink, the drier they get. So this, will cause irritation. It will cause dryness. Eyes can suffer from straining, especially in poor lighting. Children actually can suffer from more episodes of headaches. I've been seeing lots of visits over this past year in my own office with kids coming in with more chronic headaches, and most of them experiencing an excess in daily screen exposure. We also see behavioral changes. I know lots of parents have been experiencing changes in their kids' behavior in the last years, especially with virtual school and the increase in screen time after virtual school. We are seeing more kids with increased irritability, changes in their behavior, even aggression in kids with this kind of exposure. So how can this amount of screen time affect kids in the long term, meaning later in the future or when they're older? So studies on the brains of preschool age children who were exposed to more than 1 hour of the recommended screen time a day showed lower brain development in the areas of language and cognitive skills. It showed an effect on their executive functions, which this means their ability to regulate their emotions, their thoughts, and their actions. It can negatively change their vision, not only in the short term with causing dryness and tiredness, like we mentioned, but studies have also suggested that excessive screen time may increase the risk of myopia or nearsightedness in children. Now, with the onset of the pandemic this past year, we have seen what is called the COVID effect. There has been a drastic increase in the exposure to screen time amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, and virtual schooling and quarantine measures that have kept many of us home with decreased outdoor and social activities. Caregivers may use this time to keep restless and frustrated children entertained as they work from home, for example. But the problem with this practice is that it can have long-term effects in children. So excess exposure to screens can be consuming and actually addictive, providing an instantaneous and repeated rewards and gratification in the child. So children can develop an addiction to the screen medium and have difficulty breaking that habitual behavior the longer they engage in it. Then once they return to normal in-person schooling, they may have difficulty maintaining the attention and focus required in a normal face-to-face in-person interaction, as they may continue seeking that instant repeated gratification that they got from screen exposure. Kids can actually experience a heightened feeling of anxiety and depression, as well as developing behavioral problems like we spoke about. There's been a notable increase in my own office visits with patients coming in and kids coming in with significant behavioral changes that are affecting their schoolwork. We can also see a significant change in the pattern of their sleep, therefore leading to poor performance in school as children become more inattentive or fatigued from the lack of proper sleep. Some online games for children now have seen an 80% increase in the use in 2020 and are averaging 30 million users daily just in the US, which is a ton of online users. So now that we know the negative effects of excess screen exposure that it can have on our kids, let's talk about what remedies we can use to avoid these unwanted changes. So we can replace screen time with outdoor physical activities. Families can go on hikes together, or just take a nature walk in your community and learn about all the different species and plants and trees around. I know it's a time for the season where trees are having their seasonal blossoms. So that would be a great activity for the kids and the family. This actually helps visual development as it allows the eyes to focus on objects that are at varying distances and reduces the strain and fatigue on the eyes. So we can engage in alternative activities, learning a new sport, practicing playing a new instrument, taking your pets for a walk more often. All of these activities allow for the child's brain to develop and create new important connections that are necessary for a healthy development. So one other thing we can do is actually remove electronic devices from bedrooms and charge the devices in the parents' room so that kids aren't sneaking and getting their devices and late night on them for long periods of time. So you can turn off the Wi-Fi, for example, as well after virtual school, and even turn off your own access to Wi-Fi. So this increases your engagement with the child. You can play board games, puzzles, do crafts, arts and crafts, engage in reading with them. So remember, parents, to give your kids a minimum of a 10-minute break for every 1 hour that they're on screen time. So talk with the teachers and make sure they are allowing that necessary break every hour to give their eyes a rest. And make sure that the screen time is productive and interactive. So engage the child, watch a movie and tell them stories. Maybe it brings up a memory, a childhood memory of yours. So watch a classic movie with them, a children's movie, and you can share that with them and they'll remember that. Or engage in an educational learning activity with them. So what are the take-home points for our talk today? So like we said, too much passive screen time can have a short-term and long-term effects on a child's physical and cognitive development. So let's find more creative activities that help in brain development, such as puzzles, playing with blocks and Legos, drawing, reading, arts and crafts. And finally, if your child is participating in screen time, make it interactive and engage with them to make it a special experience that they'll remember, all while strengthening the bond between you and your child. So thank you everyone for attending, and I'd love to answer any questions you all may have now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hadaji, and thank you to all of the parents who sent in questions ahead of time for our event today. It makes it so much more meaningful when we know what's on the minds of parents and what are the things that you want to learn about. And Dr. Hadaji, you did answer a lot of the questions ahead of time, but just to clarify, could you say again how many hours per day is recommended for screen time?
Of course, yes. So the hours are recommended a day. I get asked this question as well. So under age 2, the American Academy of Pediatrics does not recommend any screen exposure to kids. Now, between ages 2 to 5, so preschool age children, 30 minutes to 1 hour of interactive exposure. So like we talked about, not passive exposure and leaving them alone to watch what they want or play games by themselves, but interactive exposure where the parent or the caregiver is actually interacting with the child and actually participating and engaging with them. And in older kids, it's recommended about 1.5 hours a day.
That's great. And I do have some more questions here from parents who asked before the event, but certainly if we have parents on the line that want to turn on your video and raise your hand, you're welcome to ask questions as well. But so obviously we've had to expose our children more because of the distance learning. So you feel like that's okay. That's what was one of the questions.
Yes, because of the distance. Yes. So, you know, of course, it's difficult to monitor the amount of screen time, especially with distance learning. And sometimes some of the schools are hybrid, where some of the days they're going in and some of the days that they're at home. So just make sure that you're positioning the screen at a far enough distance from the child where it's not too close to their face. And again, giving them that 10-minute break per hour to give their eyes a rest.
And we had actually a few parents ask, you know, how do we know if my child is depressed, and what should we do if we're worried about depression and anxiety?
Sure, that's a very good question. So we've seen, like I said, a lot of changes in behavior in young children, in adolescents and teenagers. So this has been really an increasing problem with seeing younger and younger children with emotional concerns such as anxiety and depression. So if you notice, parents, any changes in your child's behavior, for example, aggression, irritability, their schoolwork being affected, any sleep disturbances, changes in their appetite, decrease in the interest in activities they used to participate in. Any of these symptoms are concerning and warrant a visit to your pediatrician. So he or she will discuss with you any environmental factors that may be causing these symptoms, and possibly any physiological changes that may require lab tests that could be causing these symptoms. So your pediatrician can also recommend counseling with a child therapist if it's necessary.
That's great. And we had a parent worry about how much radiation an iPad gives off, and if that's something they should be concerned about.
Yes, so all these electronic devices actually give off electromagnetic radiation. So television, basically we're in a digital world, so it's all around us constantly. So I think the idea is to just minimize the amount of screen time that is not necessary, other than virtual school to make sure that you're engaging in more physical activities and not exposing them, increasing exposure to screen time, which can down the line affect their vision and behavior.
Great. And we had one question, and especially for our younger viewers out there. So how do you become a pediatrician?
Well, that's a great question. It is a very long but very gratifying process. So, of course, you have to have your college degree and then 4 years of medical school. Some schools have a combined program, where it's a couple years shorter. And then we participate in 3 years of residency training, which is specialized training in the classroom, in hospital and clinic settings, specifically in pediatrics. It's a lot of determination, hard work, studying, reading, sometimes sleepless nights, but all worth it in the end because I get to possibly make a difference in a child's life.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions from our parents. So thank you very much, Dr. Hidaji.
Of course.
And as I said before, Dr. Hidaji is actually our Walk with the Dog coordinator for the Nevada chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. So she and I are here the second Sunday of every month with different guest speakers who speak about a wide variety of different pediatric health topics and then take your questions. So we hope that you'll all join us for a future walk. And in the virtual world, here's how we're going to do our walk. We're going to stop the live feed, but then I'm going to go for a walk, and Dr. Hidaji is going to go for a walk, and Dr. McAllister is going to go for a walk, and hopefully you're all going to go for a walk. And you can take pictures and put them on our Twitter feed, which is at AAP Nevada on Twitter. And when you're walking outside, even though it's cold, you still want to put sunscreen on any exposed skin. You want to bring water with you. You want to wear a mask if you can't keep more than 6 feet away from other people. Actually, when it's a little chilly and the wind is blowing here near Red Rock, I like to put my mask on anyway because it has the added bonus of keeping me warm. And we will hopefully start doing our walks again together as a group in person, hopefully in the not too distant future as we're all able to get more vaccines and watch the virus rate in our community go down. Our next walk is the second Sunday of April, which is April 11th. And there will be details about the speaker and the topic on our website, nevadaaap.org. Thanks so much for joining us today, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great walk.